Okay, welcome back and Happy New Year. Today what we're going to talk about, we're starting on a brand new unit, Unit 3, and we're going to start talking about proportions. And so what we want to talk about first is, let's start off with going back and thinking about what we already know. So I want to start off with this word problem. It says there are 15 sunflowers in the garden. 12 of them are over 6 feet tall. What is the ratio of sunflowers taller than 6 feet to sunflowers shorter than 6 feet? So if I'm looking at this problem, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of highlight. I'm just going to go ahead and underline, and you can do that too. And it says 15 sunflowers in all. 12 of them are over 6 feet, and then it says the ratio of sunflowers taller than 6 feet to sunflowers shorter than 6 feet. Well, before we can go any further, now that we have this underlined, we need to go ahead and identify one of the key words in this problem. And the key word that we want to identify is the word ratio. I think we're pretty good with every other word in this problem, but some of us might not know what ratio means. A ratio is a comparison of two numbers or values. Two numbers or values. Now there's three different ways we can represent ratios, okay? The first way we can go ahead and represent it is 1 to 2. Another way we can represent it is 1 dot dot, which also means 2 in math. 2. And then the way that you're probably more familiar with, you might not have called it a ratio, would be 1 over 2. You call it a fraction, I call it a division problem. Another way that we can call it is a ratio of numbers. And this comes really important. We need to understand that this is a ratio because once we deal with proportions and when we get into probability, we need to understand that we're actually comparing two values, 1 to 2. So when we go back to our original problem, and it says 12 of them are over 6 feet tall, what is the ratio of sunflowers taller than 6 feet? So that's our first number we want to get because it says, because of the order in which the words are telling us taller than 6 feet. We know that we have 12 that are taller than 6 feet. We also know that we have 15 sunflowers in all, so all we're going to do is say 15, take away that 12, and you're left with 3. So our ratio is 12 to 3. But we don't want to leave our ratios that way, just like we normally don't leave our fractions without reducing them. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite my ratio as 12 over 3. And I know that I can go ahead and reduce this by dividing the numerator and the denominator by 3, and I end up with 4 over 1. Now those of you that say, okay, 4 over 1, I can reduce that to just become 4. That's not what we want to do here. 4 over 1, or 4 to 1, is our ratio. There are for every 4 flowers that are over 6 feet tall, one of them is under or shorter than 6 feet tall. Okay, so we want to leave both of these numbers. Both of these numbers are very important for us to understand our ratio. Okay. So next thing that we want to talk about is a proportion. A proportion basically is two ratios that are equal. All right, a proportion is basically identifying two ratios that are equal. Well, we kind of already did that with our 12 to 3 or 4 to 1. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it as 12 over 3 and 4 over 1. Now what we need to do is we need to test and determine whether or not these are proportional. The way that we do this is we cross multiply. I'm going to say 3 times 4, and I get 12. And then 12 times 1, I get 12, okay? I just multiplied it going diagonally. Since 12 equals 12, I would say yes, these two ratios are proportional, okay? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Are these two ratios proportional? So I'm going to do the first two problems here. And then I'm going to leave it to you to do the next two problems. You're going to need a calculator in order to do this. You don't need a fancy calculator, just a simple what they call a 4-function calculator. So I have 3/8 and 12 over 32. The question is this proportional? So I'm going to go ahead and multiply. 3 times 32. Using my calculator, I put in 3 times 32, and I get 96. I'm going to do 12 times 8. So 12 times 8, and I get 96. Since 96 does equal 96, I would say yes, that is proportional. Okay. The next one I want to do, I have 80 times 4. 80 times 4, and I get 320. 16 times 20. And again, I get 320. And since these are equal, again, I'm going to say yes. All right, so what I want you to do is 19 over 6 and 4 over 3, cross multiply and see if those are proportional. And then we have 28 to 42 and 18 to 32. Take a look back up here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and circle it in red, right over here where we had proportion. I had 12 to 3 and 4 to 1. All right, very similar, different numbers, but very similar. Look how I rewrote it. I rewrote it as 12 over 3 and 4 over 1. Okay, so use that to help you do this one here with the 28 to 42 and the 18 to 32. We'll go over those answers in class. Next, we want to find a missing variable. Okay, in order to find a missing variable, this is what we're going to do. All right, we're still going to use our rules for cross multiplication. So this is what I do. I'm going to say 5 times 30. Now you need to write it down exactly the way I'm doing it. And I do 5 times 30 and I get 150. See how I'm writing it down right below the bottom number that I cross multiplied. Okay, I bring down my equal sign. Now I have to multiply 25 times n. In order to do that, this is all you have to do. I put 25 and the n just gets attached right to it. So basically that's saying, remember, side by side means multiply. So that's saying 25 times n. We don't know what that n is. That's what we have to figure out. So I'm going to bring the problem over here just so I have room. I have 25n equals 150. And we're going to go ahead and use what we already know from solving one-step equations. I'm going to draw my line, divide both sides by 25. Remember, this side cancels out. I'm just left with n. And n is going to equal 150 divided by 25, and I get an answer of 6. So that's how we find our missing variable. All right, for the practice problems, again, I'm going to go ahead and do 2 of them, and then I'm going to ask you to do the other 2 for homework. So here I have, let's see, 6 times 48. 6 times 48. I use my calculator. I get 288. And then I have 8 times Z, bring down my equal sign, and I have 8Z. Now I draw my line, divide both sides by 8, and Z is going to equal 36. That's it. That's all I'm doing. Now, I have 8 times M. I write it as 8M. See, it really doesn't matter where the variable is. When you're multiplying a variable and a number together, you just put the two together. That's all you're doing. Bring down my equal sign. 28 times 12. And I have 336. Draw my line. Divide both sides by 8. Remember, those 8s cancel. And I end up with 42 equals M. Do the next two on your own, please. Now finally, I have a word problem. This is what we're going to work to. I'm just going to introduce it to you right now and see if you can set up a proportion. Okay, so there's important parts. The classrooms at Lincoln Middle School are painted every summer. That's what it should say. If 7 gallons of paint are needed to paint 4 classrooms, okay, all of a sudden I have a ratio. Okay, look at this. I have a ratio. 7 gallons of paint, 4 classrooms. So I have 7, and I'm going to put gallons over 4 classrooms. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do it like this. I have two things going on here, gallons and classrooms. So I have gallons and I have classrooms. I'm just going to label it as a CR. When I'm setting up a proportion, I know I'm going to have a line, equal sign, line. If you look at all these proportions that we've been solving, okay, line, equal sign, line. I know 7 gallons, can paint 4 classrooms. So automatically, there's my first ratio. 7 gallons, 4 classrooms. And now it says how many gallons of paint are needed to paint 16 classrooms. Okay, that's our next key word, 16 classrooms. You determine where the 16 should go and where the variable should go. Okay, that's what else I would like you to do. So you've got 4 problems, and I want you to go ahead and finish up this one. If you can go ahead and solve this proportion correctly, I'll go ahead and give you an extra point on the classwork that you'll be doing in class today. Thank you.